Welcome back to I Have a Headache, where I discuss things that give me a headache. Today's headache-inducing topic is Chapter 10 of the Feminine Mystique, entitled Housewifery Expands to Fill the Time Available. In many instances, however, the women I interviewed truly fitted the new image of feminine fulfillment. These women had had no dreams of career, no visions of a world larger than the home. All energy was centered on their lives as housewives and mothers, their only ambition, their only dream already realized. But were they fulfilled women? Friedan is always confused when women choose to be housewives. It feels like Friedan is looking for a reason to disprove these women's choices, simply because Friedan doesn't like their choices. I thought feminists were all about, well, you can do whatever you want as long as it doesn't hurt me. You do you. Right? No? It seems more like these quotes are lies.
Lies and lies and more lies.
You don't like that a woman has the freedom to choose something you don't like. Newsflash, that's not how choices work. People make different choices. What are you, a tyrant? Only tyrants get upset about people making moral choices that are different from theirs. It's not even an immoral choice, which is the only time that it's fine for others to step in and say something to try to change your opinion. You're mad because her opinion is different from yours. Why the hell does it matter if these housewives are happy being mothers, baking bread, sewing, and taking care of their homes? All these things are positive norms for society. The housewife isn't committing crimes or being unproductive. So what in the fuck is wrong with it? I'm looking for something to satisfy me. I think it would be the most wonderful thing in the world to work, to be useful. But I don't know how to do anything. My husband doesn't believe in wives working. I don't agree with the person's husband. What does it even mean to not believe in a wife working? This phrasing is common, but it has always confused me because the thing they say they don't believe in clearly exists in reality. Some wives do work. As we've discussed in my previous videos about this book, there were always working women. Women were teachers, nurses, secretaries, article writers for women's magazines, and many other things. This book was written about the 1950s, which was after World War II, when women had just gotten done working in bomb factories. Their husbands were at war, but that doesn't mean they weren't still wives. I think when people say they don't believe in something that clearly exists, what they really mean is they don't want that thing. So this woman's husband said that because he didn't want her to work. I think that's wrong because there's nothing immoral about a wife who wants to work. This woman was older too, and her children were not little anymore, so she would have had more time to herself while her husband was at work. In this case, I do think this lady's husband was being sexist towards her. Friedan compares two women, Mrs. W., a full-time housewife, and Mrs. D., a wife who worked as a scientist. Both women had multiple children. How could the same size house and the same size family, under almost identical conditions of income, outside help, style of life, take so much more of Mrs. W.'s time than of Mrs. D.'s? These women have different things to do every day. Friedan seems to think that housewives should have the exact same life as a wife who works because leftists think that everyone should have the exact same life even if they make different choices. What is that? Is that equity? Because that's impossible and ridiculous. Leftists want everyone to have the exact same life and be happy doing it. If the choice isn't the one the leftists would make, then according to them, it's bad. Different choices result in different lives. Why do I have to explain that? Humans are never going to make the same choices, even if they're in the same family. When leftists say they want everyone to be equal, they're not saying that we should get to make different choices. They're saying we should all make the choices they want us to make, because obviously the leftist has the right way to do things, and if we all did the thing they want, then we'd all be equal and happy. That's tyranny. That's why they're always screaming about the right side of government. They think there's only one way to do something when it comes to things that have no moral qualities. They really hate when people think for themselves, because they're tyrants. This is evident here in Friedan's viewpoint. She's comparing a housewife and a wife who works as if they can be comparable. They have completely different lives, and neither one is better or worse than the other, but Friedan is saying the housewife's life must be worse because it is different. Different is not bad. I thought leftists were all about that. Different is neutral. All different means is not the same. The value Friedan adds to the word different is her opinion. Opinions are not facts. Leftists are also always screaming that everyone has the right to express themselves, and they even claim that difference isn't bad, but by their actions, they hate difference. And they don't mean what they say, they never do. Friedan compares two more women, a housewife, Mrs. G, and a wife who was a freelance illustrator, Mrs. R. Mrs. G somehow couldn't get her housework done before her husband came home at night and was so tired then that he had to do it. Why did Mrs. R, who did not count the housework as her main job, get it done in so much less time? What if Mrs. R just has better time management skills than Mrs. G? This is something else goddamn leftists do. They fixate on a topic, then crowbar in situations in an attempt to give evidence for their topic. It's like when the leftists say that the pay gap exists because of sexism, or when leftists cry racism in a situation that had nothing to do with racism. The automatic clothes dryer does not save a woman the 4 or 5 hours a week she used to spend at the clothesline if, for instance, she runs her washing machine and dryer every day. What? I'm sure the automatic clothes dryer does save time. I can put clothes in a dryer and then go upstairs and do whatever the hell I want to. It does save me time. The fact that I can put the clothes in the washer and go upstairs and do something else is what saves the time. Rather than using like a washboard and like having to scrub each individual shirt and pants and socks and all the things that are included in laundry, that would take me like 4 days just to do the washing. So of course the washer and dryer saves me time. I don't need to be born before the invention of the washer and dryer to know that. That's just common sense. When you do things by hand, as opposed to when a machine does it for you, doing it by hand is usually slower. It's strange how few places there are in those spacious houses and those sprawling suburbs where you can go to be alone. Friedan spends a long time talking about how a lot of suburban houses were open-plan style houses with no doors in between rooms. But among the women I talked to, this moment of personal truth was more likely to be marked by adding a room with a door to their open-plan house, or simply by putting a door on one room in the house, so I can have some place to myself. Just a door so that between me and the children when I want to think, or work, study, be alone. Then she talks about how some women she interviewed mentioned that they want to add a door to one of the rooms because they cannot find a moment to be alone in the house. And because husband and children are soon out of the house most of the day. Did Friedan just forget what she wrote? She says the open-plan houses made it hard for the housewife to be alone, but then further down the page, she writes that the husband and children are out of the house most of the day. Wouldn't that leave the housewife alone?
Idiots.
When my husband goes to work, I am alone in the house all day, unless I decide to go out. I get about 9 hours alone in the house until he comes back from work. Was it unnatural that since they were doing such a vital job, women insisted that their husbands share in the housework? Here's the common feminist whiny complaint. Men don't do housework. Why can't he come home and do housework? Where do you think he's been all day, dear? He's been at work. He doesn't just leave the house and go sit at a park all day taking a nap. Unless you notice that one day he leaves the house but doesn't bring home any paychecks, he's probably working. I don't know why this is such a difficult concept to understand. When your husband leaves the house during work hours, he's been working all day. He goes to work. How many more times can I spell this out for you? He's been working all day, so when he comes home, give him a break. Now that I've ranted, I'm not absolving men of doing housework. Men just do different housework. My husband snaked our bathtub and bathroom sink drain on the weekend. That's housework. My husband also trimmed the bushes outside our house on the weekend. That's housework. Sometimes he mows the lawn. That's also housework. However, I am usually the one washing the dishes, doing the laundry, or cleaning the kitchen. We both do housework. We are sharing in the housework. Feminists always demand that men have to do housework, but when they complain about it, they want the men to wash the dishes so they don't have to, or so that they only have to do 50% of the dishes. They want everything all the time to be exactly 50-50. The important thing that is supposed to be 50-50 is your thoughts. My husband asks my opinion about things. He values my input. He values me as a human. Whether he does 50% of the chores that I'm usually doing doesn't really mean anything. This is also not to say all couples should divide the housework in the same way my husband and I do. I know a couple where the husband does the dishes. I'm not even saying specific chores have to be divided by sex. There are no man-specific chores or woman-specific chores. I just don't really like the yard work, so he does it. And I don't mind the inside work, like the dishes and the laundry, so I do that. People always complain about sex-divided chores because the majority of women clean, so they think it's a woman chore, but that's retarded. My husband and I both vacuum. There's no stupid law that says I'm the only one who can vacuum. Housework is already divided. Feminists saying husbands never do housework is a damn lie.
You're a liar.
After all, with no other purpose in her life, if the housework were done in an hour and the children off to school, the bright, energetic housewife would find the emptiness of her days unbearable. Friedan says that unhappy housewives purposely make their housework take longer, otherwise they wouldn't have anything to do all day. Something about this could be partially true, but in other chapters, Friedan had discovered that women needed to challenge themselves with other things, and that was what would fulfill them. Of course, that's accurate for both men and women. Humans need a challenge. We get bored. That's what work is for. However, hobbies also fill that role. I have several hobbies that I switch back and forth between to fill my days when I'm not working on a video or taking care of the house. I'm using Rosetta Stone to learn French. I cross-stitch, I scrapbook, and I work out. Those are some of my hobbies. If you're bored and you feel useless, pick up a hobby. Learn something new so you can challenge yourself. But as it was put by one of the few home and family experts who saw the real absurdity of the feminine mystique, this book is absurd. Most housework, the part that still takes the most time, can be capably handled by an 8-year-old child. This argument makes no sense. Toddlers can walk. Does that mean walking isn't important? So what if housework is so simple that a kid can do it? Maybe cleaning is easy because we need to teach children at an early age to pick up after themselves so they can keep their environments clean as adults. It's almost like humans weren't made to live in landfills. It's unhealthy. There's germs that can make people ill if there's too much filth around. Clutter also makes me irritated. That's not to say that I have a clutter-free home because I'm not perfect at cleaning, but it does say that there will be days when there's too much clutter and it gets to me, and then I go on a cleaning spree. I think it's a human nature thing, where if the environment is cleaner, it's better for your health, both physically and mentally. It's like this home and family expert who is in agreement with Friedan thinks that if something is simple enough for a child to do, it means what? Adults are above that? Adults are too good to clean their house because a child can do it? Tell your 5-year-old to deep clean the house. See how well that goes. Some of the previous chapters of this book were things I agreed with, but this chapter really showed the core leftist beliefs that drive me insane. The feminist belief that women can't make choices unless it's the choice that the feminist approves of, just proving they're tyrants. The leftist belief that if there's a problem, there can't be a cause other than the cause the leftist approves of, tyrants. The leftist tendency to contradict themselves in their own writing because they've forgotten what they wrote 4 seconds ago, and the insufferable feminist complaint that couples have to do 50-50 housework, otherwise that means the woman is oppressed. I'm gonna go make a strong cocktail after this fucking video, so until next time, don't be stupid, and I'll see you on the next video.